All right, back on page 84. The things you spend so much time on, all this work you do, might not seem as important. You might have to make room for some more spiritual things. Spiritual things. You hate that word, don't you? Spiritual? You think it's touchy-feely stuff. Well, I said. He tried to wink, a bad try, and I broke down and laughed. Mitch, he said, laughing along, even I don't know what spiritual development really is, but I do know we're deficient in it some way. We are too involved in materialistic things, and they don't satisfy us. The loving relationships we have, the universe around us, we take these things for granted. He nodded toward the window with the sunshine streaming in. You see that? You can go out there, outside, anytime. You can run up and down the block and go crazy. I can't do that. I can't go out. I can't run. I can't be out there without fear of getting sick. But you know what? I appreciate that window more than you do. Appreciate it? Yes, I look out that window every day. I notice the change in the trees, how strong the wind is blowing. It's as if I can see time actually passing through that window pane. Because I know my time is almost done, I am drawn to nature like I'm seeing it all for the first time. He stopped, and for a moment, we both just looked out the window. I tried to see what he saw. I tried to see the time of the seasons, my life passing in slow motion. Maury dropped his head slightly and curled it towards his shoulder. Is it today, little bird? He asked. Is it today? Letters from around the world kept coming to Maury thanks to the Nightline appearances. He would sit, when he was up to it, and dictate the responses to friends and family who gathered for their letter-writing sessions. On Sunday, when his sons Rob and John were home, they all gathered in the living room. Maury sat in his wheelchair, his skinny legs under a blanket. When he got cold, one of his helpers draped a nylon jacket over his shoulders. What's the first letter? Maury said. A colleague read a note from a woman named Nancy who had lost her mother to ALS. She wrote to say how much she had suffered through the loss and how she knew that Maury must be suffering too. All right, Maury said when the reading was complete. He shut his eyes. Let's start by saying, Dear Nancy, you touched me very much with your story about your mother, and I understand what you went through. There is sadness and suffering on both parts. Grieving has been good for me, and I hope it has been good for you also. You might want to change that last line, Rob said. Maury thought for a second, then said, You're right. How about, I hope you can find the healing power in grieving. Is that better? Rob nodded. Ed, thank you, Maury said. Another letter was read from a woman named Jane, who was thanking him for his inspiration on the Nightline program. She referred to him as a prophet. That's a very high compliment, said a colleague. A prophet? Maury made a face. He obviously did not agree with the assessment. Let's thank her for her high praise and tell her I'm glad my words meant something to her. Don't forget to sign Thank You, Maury. There was a letter from a man in England who had lost his mother and asked Maury to help him contact her through the spiritual world. Okay. There was a letter from a couple who wanted to drive to Boston to meet him. There was a long letter from a former graduate student who wrote about her life after the university. It told of a murder-suicide and 3 stillborn births. It told of a mother who died from ALS. It expressed fear that she, the daughter, would also contract the disease. It went on and on, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4. Maury sat through the long, grim tale. When it was finally finished, he said softly, Well, what do we answer? The group was quiet. Finally, Rob said, How about thanks for your long letter? Everyone laughed. Maury looked at his son and beamed. All right, now we're going into flashback mode on page 88. The newspaper near his chair has a photo of a Boston baseball player who is smiling after pitching a shutout. Of all the diseases, I think to myself, Maury gets the one named after an athlete. You remember Lou Gehrig? I asked. I remember him in the stadium saying goodbye. So you remember the famous line? Which one? Come on, Lou Gehrig. Pride of the Yankees, the speech that echoes over the loudspeakers. Remind me, Maury says, do the speech. Through the open window, I hear the sound of a garbage truck. Although it is hot, Maury is wearing long sleeves with a blanket over his legs. His skin pale. The disease owns him. I raise my voice and do the Gehrig imitation, where the words bounce off the stadium walls. Today, I feel like the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Maury closes his eyes and nods slowly. Yeah, well, I didn't say that. That's weird that that was considered like he did that in italics because it doesn't seem like a flashback. All right, going on to the next Tuesday in just a second.